Welcome to a special season of Perusing's Appraisers on Purpose podcast. This season, our podcast is showcasing past and current appraisers who have used their valuation knowledge and skills to invest and build wealth. How did they do it? What have they learned along the way? What can we learn from them so you can be wealthy, wise, and financially free? Your host is real estate investor, entrepreneur, and appraiser Michael Hobbs.
Hi, friends. Thanks for joining us for another engaging, informative, and this is definitely going to be an exciting episode of Perusing's Appraisers on Purpose podcast, our special season 11, and that are our peers who are using their knowledge not just to appraise, but also to invest, to earn as well as build wealth. We love that opportunity. You're going to love this. So go ahead. You can like the podcast before you even gotten into it. Of course, you're going to want to subscribe and double subscribe because it's so good. And we're happy to have George with us. George, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Man, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. So George, for those people that may not know or don't remember, how did you get into, we love our opening question. Were you born this way or how did you get into the appraisal and valuation profession? You just want to give a little high level recap for those that may not remember.
Sure. Yeah. I didn't grow up in this at all. I didn't have any family members or friends at all. I actually was working at a water delivery company. Met an appraiser, and I always had a fascination with real estate and talked to him, and he kind of led me the way, but I didn't get to train with him. I had to go out and find a trainer and do it the hard way. But yeah, I got there that way. That's how I got exposed to it.
That's fantastic. And was that exposure in residential property, commercial property?
My first opportunity, the exposure first was he did residential, but my first trainer was in commercial. So I started off with commercial and added a second trainer in residential just to add my hours quicker.
Yeah.
And I like the residential better. So I went that direction more, but yeah, both are great opportunities.
Oh my goodness. And how long were you in appraisal before your first opportunity to buy a property came along?
Way too long. I bought some really low price land when I was, younger and I was getting into appraisals. But my first investment property, it's probably 20 to 25 years in. So
wow.
far too long.
Oh, geez. And so what finally got you to pull the trigger and make an investment?
I think just looking at watching these people that were paying me to do appraisals and rental statements and figuring out the numbers for them, I started diving into it a little bit more. And I thought, well, I should take a stab at this. I know more than them. They're paying me to do this. And once I started diving into the finances part of it, I saw that it was actually achievable. I didn't need all the cash, and there was ways to leverage different opportunities. So I think that was the first eye-opening where I said, I can do this on my own and get a rental property.
And then actually saying I can do it on my own and doing it are two different things. How did that go from, hey, I think I could, to either starting to look for investments or having investments and analyzing investment opportunities and analyzing them? What came next?
Yeah, I had a friend that was crazier than I was, and he didn't know anything about real estate and said, yeah, let's do it. So we bought a property and we bought a 4-unit building and just went for it. And we both, pitched in, put the down payment and the repairs aside, and so let's just take a chance. Worst case scenario, I lose some money, but I'm tired of seeing everything go around us, and we'll figure it out as we go. I have a huge head start over people that are just starting with no experience. So let's give it a try, and it worked out.
I got it. I totally love that. So what was that first opportunity that came your all's way?
I think I shared with you, we bought a property in Catalina Island, a 4-unit building that was really bad condition. So we completely rehabbed it. We turned it into rentals and we rented it out to traveling doctors and nurses for that Catalina Island. And then we saved some money from that. And we built a separate unit that we built modular and had it flown in and or traveled in and boated in over, and then had to have a crane in. So we did modular construction because that was right when there was a lumber shortage and everything else going on. So we ended up doing steel construction modular, and sending it there was cheaper and faster actually than building it on site. So, which is a little crazy, but I actually took a Freddie Mac course on modular construction and saw how great it was as far as in storms and in weather and how it held up. So we went that route, and that kind of opened my eyes to try that approach. So yeah, that first property ended up being 5 units. We still have it, and it does Airbnbs and monthly rentals.
That's amazing. So to help people get a sense of this, so you come across a 4-unit property, and at that time, what kind of rent were you getting, and what was the purchase price? Because not everybody understands the income ratios out there in Southern California.
Yeah, the purchase price was 675
Yep.
at the time, and it was, like I said, it was in pretty bad condition. It was owner occupied, and it had, it was an agent that didn't know the market real well.
Okay.
Listed it. There was an empty lot next to it. That's
Yeah.
probably worth almost the sales price of the lot by itself. And he didn't even mention it in the listing. I just happened to see it. I said, "What's next door here with a shed on it?" And he said, "Oh, that's just a empty shed. It's got no value." So I saw through it a little bit, and yeah, and then the rents were really low. The owner, it was owner occupied, and then one of the units was rented to her daughter at a really low price. So it looked really unappealing to people that don't know the market. But once I saw it and looked at the numbers, I said, "Wow!" And I knew what the rents were. I think the rents, the 2-bedroom part of it was rented for like 1,100, and I knew it could get 2,500 to 2,600 a month. So, just to show you how much it was under marketed. They didn't mention any of this. They didn't put any. He was a brother. The agent was a brother of the owner, and
Okay.
really just put it on MLS. Didn't do a whole lot of legwork.
Holy smokes. So here you come across, and I remember a similar story for me. It was a 3-unit property, and it was a friend of the owner, and they were basically kind of helping him out and let him do the listing. And like he missed it not near as much as your guy did, but left a lot of money on the table, and I was a happy buyer. And I only came across it because I was doing an appraisal assignment. But for you, you come across this property. Did you all expect to put a lot of money into it from the start, or did you kind of figure you could just re-tenant it and run it from there?
We expected to put some money into it. We made a pretty strong decision right off the bat is we don't want to rent a place that's really beat up. We just don't want our name tied to it. We wanted something that's nice that people enjoy living in. We're in a unique market where for the traveling doctors and nurses, we wanted to have something nice where they want to keep coming back. We felt it was going to be better to be rented, and it's in a vacation market as well. So we built a couple of the units for vacation rentals, but we also built the other ones as kind of a higher class monthly rental. We looked at the return on that, and we're going to get a lot more in rents on that, doing travel nurses and doctors, and they have a nice place to stay compared to just making it rent ready with, rental grade materials.
Totally get it. For those people that are not maybe into rentals, or they're not familiar with these type of programs, you want to share a little bit more about how that's a unique niche and the pricing associated with it versus, say, a couple college buddies,
Yeah. Yeah. You're so with the vacation rentals?
the traveling.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It's kind of, there's short-term rentals and there's also like mid-term rentals. And those will typically be 30 days. Sometimes they'll go up to 6 months, and they'll rent it at a higher rate. But it's really month to month. So you can get a lot better revenue on that compared to like a 2-bedroom unit. You might be able to get 3,500 to 3,600 a month compared to $2,600 a month because there's no lease and it has to be fully furnished. There are some headaches that come with it. You have to get new people in all the time. But if you're in a market where there's a lot of travelers or people just want to get away from the weather, then it's a great opportunity because there's sites. I think it's called Furnished Findings or something like that. There's a couple other ones for travel nurses and doctors that can help rent those out for those month long. And you can also use all the vacation rentals too. You just put a minimum of 30 days. And typically you don't get all the taxes with that. You don't get the transient taxes that the cities will charge. There's far less restrictions to do it 30 days compared to doing it nightly or weekly or however else you want to do it.
Yeah, no, that is absolutely a great way to go. And then to kind of get a sense, like you said, your going in income was approximately how much per month?
I think it was 1,100 total.
Yeah, so about 4,400 was the potential when you came into it.
Yeah.
And then before you added the offsite constructed unit, what were you able to drive the rents up to?
Well, we did a little bit of construction. We split one of the 2 bedrooms into two 1 bedrooms, and we split one of the 2 bedrooms into 2 studios. So we turned this kind of 3-unit. It's an odd market where the properties are
Sure.
having 4 plans, and we were able to split that into 4 residential units and then 1 ADU. And that's before we built the new unit. And from that, we got up to $3,800 pretty fast monthly. And then once we got all done with all the construction and the studios and everything, we're at about $9,000 a month.
Congratulations. That is
Thank you.
amazing. And then where did the insight come for the site area, you mentioned that shed.
Yeah.
Like, where does this, in this case, truly surplus land, but nonetheless an opportunity to monetize it?
I think it's just knowing the market. I saw it. I knew what the building restrictions were from working that market for so long.
Yep.
I, I had the research in it to know what was possible in there. It's a small building we built. We built 1,000 square foot building.
Yeah.
But we built a rooftop deck with ocean views and everything else. And, we were able, just by seeing that and knowing what was possible from that lot, yeah, it made it work. California too. California is pretty liberal with what can be built on lots to a fault at times, but it's so knowing that as an appraiser working that market, you have a huge advantage over someone that's just looking at it without any background on it at all.
And so from that understanding, how did you go about finding someone who could actually get what you wanted there, since you didn't do site built?
Well, we started off with the local contractors and we started talking to them and getting quotes, and the quotes were pretty outrageous. They're about $700 a square foot. So we were trying to save up for that. And then there started to become shortages on materials. So the contractors said, well, you're going to be pushed out about a year to 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
We looked at it as every year we were going to miss these summer months and these winter months, spring and fall months that we're going to collect vacation rental on. So what's the benefit to bring in an off-island person over, house them, get them all the materials, and we do all the legwork ourselves. And as we started doing that, like I mentioned, I took a class on modular. I really saw the opportunity, and we both said, let's just try modular until they tell us no. And up until the night before they were going to install it, I was thinking, this isn't real, is it? We shut down a city to drive a house through a town and put our house on a boat. The sections on a boat to ship over. So it didn't seem real up until it was already all in and put in place. So yeah, pretty wild experience, but we just kept going with it. We kept trying it and figured the worst case scenario, they're going to tell us no. And best case scenario, it all works out.
So for people that are not familiar with the higher density nature of the area that you're in, because you chose to do off-site construction and then have it delivered, how much did that save you over if you had tried to do, and obviously it's a time savings, but just like a straight dollar for dollar basis, of course you expedited the time frame. You didn't have to wait 18 months.
Yeah.
You save, 50,000, you save $250,000, by choosing this approach to get the high quality construction.
Yeah, roughly about 200,000.
That's a big number.
Yeah,
That's a big number. And then because you had new construction delivered on site, what kind of rent were you able to generate in that property?
That's a vacation rental. So we don't get a monthly rental. We get vacation rental. We were hoping, we were hoping to get $1,000 a night in the prime of the season.
Yeah.
And we far exceeded that with it. So it's a small unit, but the ROI on that building alone is better than every other property that we have. So that's been a huge, a huge one for us.
Got it. And so in that vacation rental space, I assume you're talking about like the whole STR is the approach. And then do you all manage that, or do you have a third party handle that for you?
Yeah, we manage it. So my wife stays home and my business partner's wife stays home. So they do the heavy lifting on that and qualify everybody and handle everything. And then we use a platform in the middle that does a lot of the automation. And really it's a lot less involved. When we first started doing it, everyone said, well, you're going to have toilets, you're going to have this, and they're going to have all these problems. And we have on-site management people. We got a vacation rental manager there. So it really doesn't take a lot of work on our side.
And we haven't really had anyone talk too much about the whole short-term rental space. Obviously, as you said, you're very familiar in the marketplace, but it's one thing to be familiar with doing, say, residential property appraisal. Like, hey, here's a single unit, or here's a, 3 or 4 unit. It's another to drift over into the short-term rental rates, pricing, that dynamic nature of it, which is so different from figuring out, say, a 12-month rental rate.
Yeah.
What do you guys use AirDNA or other sources to really kind of manage that when you were first getting going in that area?
Yeah, I did. I looked at that. I also did some appraisals in that area too.
Okay.
When I was doing them pretty regularly. So I had a lot of rental data. I had a lot of, monthly rental data looking at it. And really what it boiled down to is we didn't expect to have that be a big moneymaker. We really wanted somewhere to go stay at.
So, okay, even better. So you had your own vested interest in it.
Yeah, exactly. We loved going over there. We said, well, let's have somewhere nice for our families to go stay and then rent it out when we're not using it. And then it started doing so well. We started saying, well, shoot, I like money more than going over there for the weekend. Let's just rent it and go somewhere else. So yeah, and that's kind of what our model has been now is I'm looking at one now for like the mountains. I like to do snowboarding and go in the mountains. So I thought it would be really cool to get another one somewhere else and have somebody else cover the mortgage.
Holy smokes. So from when you started with the property and where you're at now, how many dwelling units do you have on that site?
We have on that site, it's two units, but we have 6 units total.
Yeah, 6 units total. I mean,
The building's 6 units.
yeah, 6 units. I mean, that's phenomenal from where you started from where you're at now. You went in the 600s. So, I mean, what's that thing worth? Is $1.5 million, $2 million?
Probably 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great job. I mean, that is exactly what was so inspiring about having season 11 here of the Perusings podcast, because there are these opportunities that are right there many times within our reach. Like you said, your business partner and even your wife being close by can help be hands-on in the property, help like an all hands affair. Let's get in there and, build this up and create some income and build some wealth. But it's right there. Like it's not just necessarily other people are doing it. And it's so encouraging to hear how you guys have really made that work.
Yeah, and I think there's so many opportunities that I didn't really realize as far as just the financing part of it. I started following a couple different podcasts and a couple different reading books and audiobooks.
Yeah.
And that, the buy, rehab, rent, repeat. Yeah, says BRRRR was kind of eye-opening to me where you seem stupid for not realizing it earlier, especially being in this industry is, wow, I can take some money, I can buy a property, I can fix it up, you get all my money back and still have somebody else paying my mortgage. So I'm into it for zero. So if the market completely tanks, I'm into it for zero and I'm going to gain the equity on it as it grows. So that kind of opened our eyes a little bit where I was, kind of frustrated that I didn't start earlier or didn't look at it earlier. So that's the model we've been trying to do is buy properties that need a lot of work, put the time into it. And then, I don't do it myself. I would mess it up, but hire people to do the work, get it done. And then have somewhere nice where you don't have to do a lot of repairs on it. You don't do a lot of maintenance on it. I think if you go into it as thinking the minimum required and making it rental grade on everything, you're constantly going to be having to do something with it.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. So after you did that first one and expanded it, what did you do next?
Yeah, after we did the first one, there was a property one street right behind us that looked haunted. It was open walls, no windows. When it was, an investor got in there and realized how hard it was on this island and got out of there. So I got on public records. I wrote him a letter. I found him on social media. I called the last agent that sold him that house 15 years ago. And I said, do you know him? And she said, yeah. So she put me in touch with him. He said, I'm tired of you reaching out every way you can. I'll sell it. Okay, I'm good. I'm
No way. He did.
It just worked out. So we bought that off market.
Wow.
And and fixed that up and turned that into vacation rental and monthly rentals, the same type of property. And at the very end of escrow, he said, I got another building around the corner. It's a triplex in really bad shape. If you want to buy that, we'll do that too. And we were out of money at that point, but we made it work, borrowing 401ks and doing everything we could to make it work. And it all worked out.
Oh my gosh, that is so amazing. So when you went into that second property, what did you go in at it? What did you do to it? And what did it turn into?
80% of all businesses fail within 5 years, according to the U.S. Census Bureau. With so many roles and responsibilities that must be managed and have nothing to do with appraisal reports, is it any surprise that it's hard to keep up, much less having a sense of peace, stability, and profitability that comes from growing your business? Given all of this, you might already be thinking about exiting your business one day. Don't miss the limited opportunity to work with Michael, a real estate expert and professional coach. He has worked with more than 300 owners and entrepreneurs to find their highest and best use by solving problems that reach their most important goals. To impress decades of learning in today's by working with Michael. Michael is famous in real estate and business coaching. With his help, you can accelerate your growth, increase your quality of life, and earn more money, all while ultimately doing less. Michael helps you not just grow your business, but also find new purpose in it and in your life. If you're ready to take control instead of being controlled, contact him on LinkedIn or email him at michaelh@parru.com.
Yeah, it was like I said, a duplex. It had a little studio and a rental in the back, and we bought it for 1.2. It was in really bad shape and needed a lot of work. Fortunately, the homeowner had all the materials already in the home. So he abandoned the construction. Some of it got damaged because of the open walls and weather. He didn't prepare it right, but overall we had all the materials, and over there on a little island, getting all there. He went, all out with it and bought really high end materials. So we got lucky with that because with flooring and everything involved drywall to the roofing. You had Spanish tile roof. Everything was inside the house. It was a huge mess and looked pretty daunting. But once we got through it, it was great. We did it with really top end materials and didn't have to bring a whole lot to the island as far as after the fact, except just furnishing it. But the actual hard materials were all already purchased in there.
Oh my goodness, that is something else. And so when you were done, what did the income stream on a monthly basis look like?
We rent the back studio for 2,200, and then we have a vacation rental. So we do well with that. It covers the mortgage fine, and we make money on top of that. So overall, and we did private lending on that one. So
Sure.
the interest rate was higher, and we were still able to cover it. We just recently refinanced a DSCR loan. So as you know, is once you get into after a little while, you start to run into a problem where your income doesn't match what all the mortgages cost.
Oh yeah.
The DSCR loans are a great benefit for that.
Yeah, it's about, engineering the property in a meaningful way that it can support, in this case, the indebtedness, whoever's going to be the provider. Sometimes it's more expensive or less expensive, but many times it's about just access to that capital. So
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
you be on that train. That's amazing. That's amazing. So have you started your own YouTube program yet and pipelining course to help people follow in your footsteps to invest in Southern California?
No, I haven't. I'm open to anybody helping anybody I can. If anybody needs help or has questions, but yeah, not putting. I don't have any time. I'm busy as it is. So
You're busy.
I try to help people wherever I can, and if they want that, the other side of that too is you don't want to help someone and then the market turn and you feel guilty for something going wrong because there always is that risk. But
That's true.
yeah,
Yeah, there is always that risk. But no one's going to take that away from you on the truth and the freedom that it is. It's a freedom to choose, but the truth that it could happen.
yeah, I think we have, a lot of times I'll have friends that come, and hey, I want to invest in, what do I invest in real estate? And the real estate's so open. There's so many different channels you can go down. Which way do you want to go? And you definitely don't want anybody to do it the same exact way you do because, I mean, they want to, but I'm saying that I think we're all old enough to remember the last time that we had a big downturn. Not that I think that that's at risk, but still in the back of your head.
Yeah, it's hard not to overcome. I'm sorry, it's hard not to just be beholden to those significant experiences many times with a lot of negative energy associated. And you're like, oh, I don't know if I could, like, it might happen again. I'm like, but what's the probability?
Right.
Is it 2% or 92%? That's a big difference as those things show up.
Did you have those same fears when you were investing in investment properties?
It's interesting. At first, I had come across the first piece of information around investing in real estate as I turned 16. And back in the day, they used to have the original infomercials.
Yeah.
And I bought Carlton Sheets' no money down program.
Oh, did you?
Oh yeah. Yeah, man, he looked a lot like Jim Rohn. If you know who Jim Rohn was, that kind of look. And, just like well-coiffed, beautifully dressed guy in a fancy suit in front of, I don't know, like a Rolls Royce or something. It was
Yeah.
cover his program, but it was all about, how to buy property without having to need the money. And it would be almost 10 years later before I bought my first place. And it wasn't until, I bought a townhouse and I bought another townhouse. It wasn't until I bought a little bit bigger building. And then I realized, I'm like, what if one of those units goes vacant? Like,
Yeah.
like where does that money come from? And, how do you go find people to move in? And so there were definitely have been times, mostly not in the buying side of it. It was more around getting into bigger projects that had longer horizons where I couldn't control things like the economy.
Yeah.
I couldn't control things such as availability of credit.
Yeah.
That's where concerns and fears showed up. And I've been on both sides of that. I've benefited greatly. And as they say, a sharp knife has two edges.
Right.
And you can get cut on either side of it. And I've lived through that, but it's quite painful in the process. And yet, knowing how great the upside opportunity was, both short term and long term, I'm like, look, let's like a true sports player. I'm like, get back in the game. Like, let me get back in the game. Let me get back in the game. And sometimes the game didn't let me back in.
I think you get paralyzed worrying about all the what ifs,
Yeah.
Well, we had a similar one where you talk about you can't control what you can control, but there's some things that are control. We prepared all the units for short term rentals, had them all set up, ready to hit the market, and then COVID hit.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
there was a 90% unemployment rate on that island. There was nobody traveling. They shut down the boats. They shut down the cruise boats. It was an empty island, and we had vacation rentals that were sitting empty. So the panic moment, I was worried about the investment, but mostly I was worried about leading my friend the wrong way because he has no experience in real estate. So I felt terrible about that. But as we all know how it all played out, it completely turned and the rentals went way up because people finally were able to travel. And and it worked out to be not a bad thing at all. But at the time I remember thinking, oh man, we just found what was going to go wrong. I accounted for everything. I thought about every variable possible, but a national, pandemic happening. So that threw me completely for a loop.
Oh my gosh, that is something else. Yeah, it's hard to get through that. I mean, I've experienced just about every type of good and bad as there is as it relates to being in real estate. And sure, it sucks on the bad side of it, but you look at it and say, how likely is that to happen again? Well, as they jokingly make reference, I know not only got the education, I got the t-shirt too. So just wear the t-shirt and get back in there. Kind of thing.
That's all you can do.
No, I totally agree with you on that. So what type of properties do you continue to keep an eye out for?
We kind of stick in what we know and look for small multifamily properties that need a lot of work.
Okay.
I like the book Vivid Vision a lot. I think that book really dials into tell people exactly what you want, pinpointed vision of what you want and what you're going to do. And I think the world kind of comes around to help you on that. If you just say, I want every kind of property, no one's looking for you. But I've been really trying to focus in on that, on small short-term or small multifamily properties that need a lot of work and that are in vacation markets. And that's really what we've narrowed. Not to say I'm not open to another one if there was a cool property that interests us, but that's really what we're trying to focus on. And at this point, we're not full-time investors by any means. So just looking for the right ones that make sense and something that really where my family and I want to go travel to and go visit. So
I think that's a lovely approach that maybe people haven't thought about until they heard you say it, which is, wow, yeah, you could go buy a timeshare, but you don't need to. Instead, why don't you buy an investment property that maybe if it has multiple units, you can keep it occupied the majority of the time. And when you want to be there, you be there. And the rest of the time, other people keep paying for it for you. I mean, what a wonderful way to pay for your vacations.
Yeah, and I think, one thing that was shocking to me, and I'm interested in your take, is on the taxes side of it.
Oh,
The benefits on the taxes, was something that I was really shocked with.
So tell me about your experience of shock. I'll share mine.
Yeah, I mean, we did this. It wasn't even a consideration. We weren't really thinking about that side of it at all. We met with our CPA. They started talking about, bonus depreciation, cost segregation, all the different, depreciation write-offs.
Yes.
And then all the expenses that go along with it that were part of it. That it really ate into a lot of my W-2 income as well. So it was a huge benefit where I thought, I'm crazy not to do this because, while you are putting money out of pocket there, to invest in the market, it saves you quite a bit of money on the taxes.
It's significant. I was fortunate that I don't remember how many years in, I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky, ended up going to school in the Midwest, got recruited to go to work in Chicago. And I was in corporate America for, a little under a decade. And right around Y2K, the opportunity became that both with the economy slowing down, I had exited the business that had been growing, and I was unemployed for a little bit during that summer. Met someone who was an appraiser, got into appraising, and I'd already owned a couple properties at that point. And I remember chatting with my accountant that year, and he said, "Hey, Michael, given your income in this year, you have more income from your rental property than you do from any other source. You qualify as a real estate professional according to the IRS." And I'm like, "John, okay. And I don't know what that means." He said, "Well, you actually get a different tax classification as it relates to losses. When your income, say you're a doctor or you're a professional, there's a cap, like inside the property, there's income and expenses. But beyond that, you can't carry those losses elsewhere." He said, "As a real estate professional, you get the opportunity to actually carry those losses." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And he basically showed me how here's the, taxes that you've paid, and here's your refund that you're going to receive. And by the way, as you continue to buy more property and you therefore accumulate more depreciation, you have more depreciation expense, AKA transfers and look or paper losses, but those paper losses actually cover paid taxes like income taxes and stuff. And I got to tell you, it was the biggest eye opener. I'm like, "Oh my God, I had no idea that there were such huge benefits aside from the property appreciation and the income and the joy of someone else, building my retirement for me. Like, yeah, I got to provide a nice place and take care of it or have a manager take care of it and maintenance guy. But on top of that, then, oh, by the way, let's wipe out your taxes due to the IRS and have the IRS instead send you a refund." I'm like, "You're sending me a refund because I own investment property?" And the answer is
Yeah.
yes. And I'm like, "I love you."
Yeah.
Okay.
I had the same,
George?
I had the same situation because the short-term rental qualifies as real estate professional status. So with the short-term rental, we went there with the CPA and I thought, I don't know what I'm going to owe. I was so nervous. I said,
Yeah.
I'm one eye open, kind of going, what's the damage? And she said, "You're getting almost everything back. And I said, "What do you mean? Everything you paid in taxes all year long at your job, you're getting back, nothing." And I was blown away. And it was kind of like you said, that eye-opening moment. I'm like, I got to do this more. This is incredible.
Yeah.
It's such a big opportunity.
It is a huge opportunity. And granted, for those people that are high income earners, not in real estate, when you first start investing, you're not going to be able to do this.
Yeah.
But over time, it builds up. I mean, I'd been in corporate America for a number of years, and then just so happened to have that transition year where everything fell into place and I qualified. I already owned slightly under 10 buildings at that point. So it wasn't insignificant, but I'm like, I look back now, I was like, I will buy property just to make sure that I don't lose that status.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so impactful.
Yeah. 100%. I think it's worth it.
Yeah.
I have a friend of mine that knows real estate really well. And he started approaching people that were high income earners and saying, "Look what you can save on taxes. I could find the real estate. I can help you." And he's made a business out of doing that. It's just, I think it's called warehouse sales, where they go find properties to buy and he's zero in.
Yep.
And he saves money and he's a partner in the sale. So pretty interesting.
That's impressive. I remember a couple years ago, one of the gentlemen I had trained back in the day, it's been quite a while. I used to advertise in the local publication for real estate investor apprentices. And people would come in and they wanted to learn how to invest. And I had a bunch of buildings and properties that were under rehab or construction or what have you. And I actually needed construction managers and site visitors kind of thing. So I'd bring people in and I would teach them appraisal. I'm like, "Look, I'm going to teach you appraisal. You're going to go and take these courses and you're going to become a, trainee appraiser. And I'm going to teach you how to invest based on these fundamentals." And all of them had very good success. Some of them outstanding success. But one in particular went on, left that, went into some other space, and then called me up a couple of years ago, and he had gotten into coding and like the high tech stuff you'd want to be in. And he's like, "Hey, I've got good news and bad news." I'm like, "What's up?" I'm like, "Don't tell me you're moving back to Chicago." He's, "Oh, no. We love being here in Colorado." I said, "Oh, fantastic." He said, "But I've worked for a couple startups and I have a lot of options. And I think now I'm going to exercise them. I'm like, is that the good news or the bad news? He's like, well, that's the good news. I'm like, well, congratulations. You've worked hard and you've earned it. I said, what's the bad news? He goes, I have a monster tax bill. I'm like, monster? How big is monster? Like you got like 10, 20,000? He's like, no, it's big 6 figures. I'm like, we're approaching 7 figures. I'm like, congratulations on your offer. I'm like, and you're calling me? He's like, he goes, man, you're informed. Like, you know things, you're creative. You've done a lot of things. I've learned a ton from you. I was like, well, buddy, all we need to do is go buy an $8 to $10 million property. He's like, what do you mean that's all we need to do? I'm like, I explained exactly what you talked about. Property, depreciation, cost segregation for accelerated depreciation, first year write-offs. I was like, you're basically going to get paid to buy this property. Like you're going to take the money, it's going to go away from you, and then it's going to come back. And he was like, oh my goodness, this is obscene. He's like, is this legal? I'm like, it's in the tax code. It's IRC.
Perfect.
Take it out, buddy.
Yeah.
It's like,
urging you to invest. Yeah. It's incredible.
It was, George, it was shocking. I'm like, I wish I had your problem. I wish I had all those options to cash in, but just doing some real estate appraising and real estate investing. I'm with you, George. I haven't gotten into buying in the vacation home locations. I got to expand my game.
There's a really good site I like using a lot called Rabu. Yeah.
I don't know that. What is this?
Yeah, it's RABBU, I think it is.
Okay.
And really, you can put in the address and it'll tell you what the expected monthly rental is for a short-term rental. And it'll break down the cost and what you can benefit on it. So I always tell my friends, I said, anywhere you're looking at vacations, go see if it makes money as a vacation rental.
All of that is
3.5% down, do whatever you need to do.
I love that. I'm checking that out right here. I am so impressed by that. I always learn stuff. People ask me all the time, like, why do you do the podcast? I'm like, I have no idea what I'm going to learn until the podcast is over. And who knew I was going to learn about Rabu?
Still got people questioning why you're doing this, huh?
And you know what? I'm like, sure, I'm happy to spend the money and the time. It's just a joy to learn and you get to meet wonderful people in the process. For sure. Absolutely love that. Well, George, I appreciate you taking a little bit of time here on this afternoon to share with us how, although you said it took you too long, but you've gotten in and, continuing to not only build income, build a lifestyle, but also build wealth in the process.
Yeah, definitely.
Appreciate it, buddy. Friends, thanks for joining us. I knew you were going to like this before you even got into it. I can't wait to hear your stories of success. And if George said, hey, he's happy to help, just reach out and ask. George, have a great day, buddy.
Thanks. You too. Take care.
Thank you for listening to BRRRR's Appraisers on Purpose. Your enjoyment, enthusiasm, and encouragement are contagious. What an honor to highlight the paths and achievements of our guests. Thank you for doing what only you can do, clicking subscribe, clicking like, and then sharing this with 2 peers. When you signal to Spotify, LinkedIn, and YouTube that appraisers are valuable, everyone's life and work are elevated. We'd love to hear from you. Post a comment and then message on LinkedIn. Again, thank you for your time listening in on BRRRR. Go create the change that you seek.